Salmon Forest, written by David Suzuki and Sarah Ellis, illustrated by Sheena Lott. It's a bright autumn day. Kate and her dad go to the river. Today we're going to find a story, says Dad. It's called The Salmon Forest. Kate skips along the trail and spots a chipmunk. What's it about? Mysteries, merry-go-rounds, and millions of babies, says Dad. As they get close to the river, Kate smells something. Yuck! Dead salmon lie in the shallows. Is that the end of the story already? Says Kate. I don't want to go home yet. In this story, the beginning and the end are the same, says Dad. That's one of the merry-go-rounds. Kate and Dad hike farther up the river. What happened to those fish? They came back from the ocean and swam way upstream to lay their eggs. Then they died and drifted downstream. Kate peers into the river and sees a crowd of fish pushing and jostling against each other. Hey, look! The big red one jumped right out of the water. That big guy is a male sockeye salmon, says Dad. Okay, I get it, says Kate. The story is called The Salmon Forest because we're in the forest and there are the salmon. Yes, but there's more to it than that, says Dad. It's also about the millions of babies and how the salmon in the forest need each other. These fish are on their way to a part of the river where there's a gravelly bottom and smooth flowing water. That's where they can lay their eggs. I know about that, says Kate. It's called the spawning area. Dad stops. Where did you find that out? Video at school. We saw how the female makes a nest in the gravel with her tail and lays her eggs in it. But, Dad, you said the salmon need the forest. Why? You'll see. Let's go closer to the river, says Dad. Kate and Dad crouch by the river. Feel the water, says Dad. Brr, it's cold. Yes, says Dad. That's good for the salmon eggs. They need cool water. Know what keeps it cool? Kate looks up into the trees. Shade? That's it. The forest is like a hat for the river, blocking the sun and keeping the river cool. That's one reason salmon need the forest. What's another reason? The roots of the trees hold the soil in place so that it doesn't wash into the water and make it dirty. The eggs need clean water, and so do the baby salmon after they hatch. What happens next? Says Kate. After 1 or 2 summers, the salmon swim downstream. Most kinds of salmon go right to the ocean, but sockeye salmon find a lake and stay there for a year. Then they swim out to the sea. That's a long journey. Why do they go way out there? Good question, says Dad. When the eggs hatch, there are millions of baby fish in the stream, but not enough food in the rivers and lakes to feed them. In the ocean, there's lots of food, like needlefish and herring and ulican. The salmon spend several years in the ocean, where they eat lots of fish, and seals, whales, and birds try to eat the salmon. Kate and Dad climb a boulder. How do the salmon know when to come back to the river? That's one of the mysteries, says Dad. Somehow they know when it's time to make the long trip. They come back to lay their eggs. How do they find their way? Mystery number 2. They swim hundreds of kilometers out in the ocean, but they come right back to the river where they were born. Scientists think that every river has its own smell, which the fish recognize. Look, says Kate, there's another red fish. I thought salmon were silver. The sockeye turn red as they move up the river, says Dad. Kate looks up into the trees in their fall colors. Then they match the leaves, she says. Dad laughs. Yes, they do. Kate notices more dead salmon in the water. They make me feel sad, she says. Here's something to think about, says Dad. All the fish want to do is reach their stream and spawn. They stop eating when they leave the ocean. They use all their energy to fight upstream, and they still have a long way to go from here. After they get to the gravel beds, they clean out a nest, lay their eggs, and then die. It's their natural life cycle. And the end of the story becomes the beginning. Because the eggs become baby salmon, says Kate. Yes, says Dad. And then an amazing thing happens. After a fish dies, its body is eaten by tiny bacteria and fungi, which are then eaten by insects. When the baby salmon hatch, they eat those bacteria and insects, which have been fed by their parents' bodies. So by dying, the parents have helped feed their babies. Bugs eat salmon, salmon eat bugs. Another merry-go-round, says Kate.